My best friend made me her bridesmaid just to humiliate me, so I gave her a wedding she'll never forget. I want you to be my maid of honor. That was the moment I knew I was going to destroy Lily. Not in an obvious way. I wasn't going to cause a scene at her wedding, throw wine on her dress, or make a big speech exposing her secrets. No, that would be too easy. I was going to let her ruin herself, the same way she had ruined me. For over a decade, I thought Lily was my best friend. She had me convinced she was the only person I could trust. The only one who truly cared about me. And for a long time I believed that. Until she ripped my life apart and made the biggest mistake of all. She thought I would forgive her. She thought I would stay quiet. She thought I was still her puppet. She was dead wrong. Lily always played the role of the perfect best friend. She never openly insulted me. She never screamed or bullied me. Instead, she made me feel small in ways I didn't even recognize. She had this way of saying things that sounded like compliments, but left me feeling like I wasn't good enough. When I landed my first high-paying job, she smiled and said, "Wow, that's amazing. I never thought you'd go into something so intense." When I introduced her to my boyfriend, she laughed. "He seems nice. I just hope he's not the type to get bored easily." When I got a big promotion, she nodded. "That makes sense. You've been there forever, so they probably felt like they owed you." I didn't see it back then. I didn't see how she planted doubt in my mind, how she kept me just insecure enough to never truly stand on my own. And then one day, she went too far. It wasn't just the manipulation. It wasn't just the constant undermining. It was the fact that she actively sabotaged my life when she thought I was getting too successful. A year ago, I was up for a massive promotion, the kind that could change my career forever. I had worked for it for years. It was mine. But then, out of nowhere, my boss called me in for a meeting. And I lost everything. Someone had emailed him anonymously, claiming I was spreading office gossip, speaking negatively about clients, and planning to leave the company anyway. The email was detailed, specific. It sounded like it came from someone who knew me personally, and I had no way to prove it wasn't true. I was told they were going in a different direction for the promotion. 2 weeks later, I found out who sent the email. Lily. She confessed when I confronted her. Not because she felt guilty, not because she was sorry. She laughed. "Come on, you were never going to fit in that role anyway," she said. "I was just protecting you from embarrassing yourself." I will never forget the way she looked at me in that moment. Smug, victorious, like she had done me a favor. And that was when I finally saw the truth. Lily had never been my friend. She wasn't just manipulating me. She was actively destroying me whenever I got too close to surpassing her. She wasn't afraid of me failing. She was afraid of me succeeding. And that day, I made a decision. I wasn't going to cut her off. I wasn't going to warn her. I was going to wait. I was going to pretend I didn't know. I was going to make her believe I was still the same pathetic, naive best friend who would never fight back. And when the time was right, I was going to tear her world apart. I didn't have to wait long. A few months later, Lily called me, giddy with excitement. "I'm getting married," she squealed. "And obviously you're going to be my maid of honor." She had no idea. She had no idea that the girl she had controlled for years was gone. She had no idea she had just handed me the perfect weapon to destroy her life. I forced my voice to sound surprised. "Oh my God, really? I'd love to." But inside? Perfect, I thought. Let's see who the real queen is. Lily thought she was running the show. She had no idea I was the one holding the strings. The first thing Lily did after I agreed to be her maid of honor was send me a spreadsheet. Yes, an actual spreadsheet. It was filled with tasks I needed to complete. Bridesmaid dress coordination, bachelorette party planning, speech writing, seating chart assistance, and of course, a diet and workout plan, because apparently she wanted us to be photo ready. "Obviously, you don't need to change anything, babe," she texted. "But wouldn't it be cute if we all had a little bridal glow-up together?" It was classic Lily, a passive-aggressive way of saying she wanted me to look a certain way for her wedding. But instead of getting annoyed, I smiled. Because I already knew exactly how I was going to play this. 2 weeks later, Lily had all the bridesmaids meet for a dress fitting. She had already picked out the dresses herself without asking any of us, but acted like we had a choice. Lily's dress? A stunning, custom-made pearl white gown. Her bridesmaids' dresses? A dull beige that looked like overcooked oatmeal. And mine? It was a size too big, and in a color that made me look sickly pale. I saw the way she smirked when I stepped out of the dressing room. "Oh no, that doesn't fit quite right, does it?" she said sweetly. "But don't worry, we can always get it altered, eventually." She had no intention of letting me look good at her wedding. But here's what she didn't know. I had already gone behind her back and spoken to the bridal shop's manager. When the wedding day came, I wouldn't be wearing this dress. I would be wearing something else entirely. Something that would completely ruin her little power play. The bachelorette party was Lily's next big attempt at humiliating me. She gave me an impossible budget and expected me to plan a luxury weekend getaway with it. I don't want anything crazy. Just something fun, relaxing, and maybe a little bougie. Translation: make it perfect, but if it isn't, I'll make sure you take the blame. So I planned exactly what she asked for. A gorgeous Airbnb, private chef, spa day, everything on her ridiculous checklist. And then, I accidentally sent the wrong date to the venue. By the time we showed up, our reservations were gone. Lily was furious. She tried to throw a tantrum, but there was one problem: everyone was watching. So instead of making a scene, she had to grit her teeth and pretend to be the gracious bride, while I acted horrified and apologetic. "Oh my God, Lily, I'm so sorry," I gasped dramatically. "I'll fix it, just give me a second." I knew she wanted to scream, but what could she say? That I had sabotaged my own plans? I watched as she seethed in silence, forced to drink her overpriced champagne and pretend everything was fine. And that was when I knew I was getting to her. She still thought she had control, but the cracks were starting to show. A week before the wedding, Lily called me, acting overly sweet. "So, I was thinking about your maid of honor speech," she chirped. "I just think it would be so funny if you talked about some of our crazy high school moments." I already knew what she meant. She wanted me to humiliate myself in front of a crowd of 200 people. She expected me to tell embarrassing stories about my awkward teenage years, while she stood beside me, glowing and perfect. But I smiled and agreed. "Of course, that sounds hilarious." And then I started working on a very different speech. A speech that would make the entire room see Lily for who she really was, without me ever having to say it directly. By the time the wedding weekend arrived, everything was in place. Lily thought she had done everything right. She thought she had set up every detail to make herself shine and make me look like a joke. She thought she had won. What she didn't know was that I had been rewriting the rules of the game behind her back. Because the moment she stood at the altar, smiling like the untouchable queen she thought she was, that was the moment everything started to fall apart. And I couldn't wait to watch her crumble. Lily thought she had me under control. Now she was about to lose everything. From the moment she walked into the reception, I knew the cracks were starting to show. She was forcing her smiles, gripping her champagne glass a little too tight, glancing at me every few seconds. She was still trying to convince herself that she was winning, that she had everything under control. She had no idea that by the time the night was over, she would be left with nothing. Lily had spent months making sure I looked as plain and unnoticeable as possible. She had picked my dress herself, a loose, unflattering beige thing that was designed to make me blend into the background. But when I walked into the reception, I wasn't wearing that dress. I was wearing a sleek, custom-fitted version that I had secretly had altered weeks ago. A dress that was elegant, stunning, and just enough of a contrast to make her entire plan backfire. When she saw me, she froze. Her mouth twitched. Her fingers clenched around her champagne flute. I saw it. The panic. The first crack. She couldn't say anything, not in front of all these people, but I could feel the rage radiating off her, and that's when I knew she was losing control. Lily had meticulously planned the seating arrangements, ensuring that I was placed at a table far from her and any important guests. But here's what she didn't know. While she had been busy micromanaging every tiny detail, I had been planting my own landmines. Because a few strategic changes had been made to the seating chart, Lily's father, her biggest supporter, the man who paid for half this wedding, had been seated at one of the worst tables in the venue. The moment he walked in and saw it, his face darkened. And when he made eye contact with Lily, she knew she had a problem. She hurried over to him, panic clear in her eyes. "Dad, there must have been a mistake," she whispered, desperately trying to smooth things over. But it was too late. People were already noticing. The whispers had already begun, and the more Lily tried to contain it, the worse it got. By the time dinner started, Lily was barely holding it together. She was forcing laughter, clutching Mark's hand like it was the only thing keeping her from collapsing. And then came my maid of honor speech. She had expected me to embarrass myself, to fumble through awkward high school stories that made her look like the goddess she thought she was. Instead, I stepped up to the mic, smiled, and said, "I've known Lily for years. She is, without a doubt, the most determined person I've ever met. She knows what she wants, and she always, always finds a way to get it." A few people chuckled. Lily forced a tight smile. She thought I was complimenting her. I wasn't. As I spoke, I reached into my purse, but if there's one thing I admire most about Lily, it's her ability to keep secrets. Lily's smile froze. She knew. She knew I was about to pull the trigger, but she had no way to stop it. I pulled out my phone and tapped the screen twice. And then, I airdropped a file to every guest in the room, a file full of screenshots. Screenshots of Lily's text messages, to her ex, from 3 weeks ago. All around the venue, phones lit up at the same time. A ripple of gasps and whispers spread through the crowd as people opened the messages. Mark, her brand new husband, looked down at his phone. He clicked the file. And then, his face drained of color. Lily to her ex, 3 weeks ago. "I miss you. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if we had stayed together." Lily to her ex, 2 weeks ago. "I shouldn't be saying this, but I don't know if I'm making the right choice." Lily to her ex 1 week ago. "I wish it was you. I think about you all the time." Mark slowly stood up. "What the hell is this?" he demanded, his voice cold. Lily's mouth opened and closed. No words came out. Her parents were staring at her in shock. Her friends were whispering, backing away. She had spent years controlling every detail of her life. And now she had lost everything in under 5 minutes. I took a slow sip of my champagne. Then, I leaned into the microphone one last time. "Oops, I guess some secrets just have a way of coming out." And then I put the mic down and walked away. Lily's wedding was supposed to be the best day of her life. Instead, it was the day she lost everything. I didn't look back as I walked off the stage. I didn't need to, because behind me, Lily's world was falling apart. The second I stepped away from the mic, the room exploded. Guests were gasping, whispering, scrolling through their phones as they read the texts I had sent out. Lily was shaking. Her hands clutched her dress like it was the only thing keeping her standing. This isn't real," she stammered. She grabbed Mark's arm. "Babe, please." But Mark was already stepping away from her. His jaw was tight, his face unreadable, but his eyes said everything. Betrayal, disgust, regret. Mark didn't say another word. He didn't have to. He took off his wedding ring and placed it on the table. And then, he walked out. Lily let out a strangled noise, like she couldn't believe this was happening. "Mark? Wait." She tried to chase after him, but her dress caught on a chair leg, and she stumbled forward. No one moved to help her. Not her bridesmaids, not her family. No one. Because by now, everyone in that room had put the pieces together. They were seeing Lily for who she really was. And they didn't like what they saw. The next voice that cut through the silence was her father's. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he said, his voice shaking with anger. Lily turned, her face pale. "Dad, you had everything," he snapped. "And you threw it away. For what? For some guy you didn't even love?" Her mother was on the verge of tears, shaking her head. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" she whispered. Lily looked around wildly, as if searching for someone, anyone, to defend her. But there was no one left. One by one, people started getting up. Some out of awkwardness, some out of pity, some because they were just flat out disgusted. By the time I reached the exit, I turned around one last time. Lily was standing alone in the center of the room, her dream wedding in shambles around her. I met her eyes, and I smiled. Not a smirk, not a cruel grin, just a calm, satisfied smile. And then, I walked out. I never had to say another word to Lily after that night. I never had to explain myself, justify myself, or get the last word in. Because life did that for me. Lily's engagement was officially over. Mark had her texts printed out in the divorce attorney's office before the wedding photos were even developed. Her parents cut her off financially. After seeing what she had done, her father refused to pay for the wedding expenses. Lily was now in debt for a wedding that didn't even end in a marriage. Half her friends abandoned her. Her bridesmaids, most of them blocked her. Even the ones who stayed were only there for the gossip. She lost her job. Turns out, when your boss's wife was one of the wedding guests and she saw the whole thing go down, yeah, that doesn't look great for your reputation. A month after the wedding, I woke up to a text. "I hope you're happy, you ruined my life." I stared at the screen for a long moment, and then I typed back, "No, Lily, you ruined your own life. I just let everyone see it." Blocked. And just like that,